Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We are back. Hey, so let me get a tape measure. I don't need you right now. I'm gonna need you in a little bit of a second. Hey. What was in there? Hey, I'm gonna give people just a little bit of time to go on, to get on. So while I have you all here, let's ask questions. I'm gonna give people a little bit of time because the sewing part is short. It's short. I'm gonna give you the technique, and I'm not gonna spend too much time because it needs to be within an hour. This live shouldn't be longer than an hour to maximize the time and give people. Oh yes, good morning for you all in the different time zone. So if you have questions, feel free to ask. I'm gonna answer some questions that I've seen as I was going through the messages. So remember, when you're looking at it, your temple area, right? There's a lot of techniques. There's a lot of tricks and tips to make things easier for you. Taping your tape measure down, a bunch of other things, drawing lines. But as a wig maker, and ultimately my goal is I encourage all of my students get to a point where if you even thinking about teaching or like to teach, that you will teach. You have to be able to not just quote what someone just told you, right? You understand the concept. That's the big thing for me. And anything that I do is really trying to get a good understanding of the ins and outs of just the theory behind wig making and everything. So again, this is your temple area. So if you have your temple pin, when you make wigs, all of us wig makers, it's a bunch of great wig makers in here, great wig makers online. You will be able to look and say, I need to be right here, like in my temple area or wherever you are. Hence, there are some wig makers that actually prefer to start up for whatever reason. Some wig makers can make a wig and it's down here, but they have mastered whatever it is that they need to do for whatever the reason their concept is doing it. That's why I'm really big on there's many right ways, but there are just some wrong ways. So let me take, for example, someone hit me up like, why do I have to use the measurements to make a ready to ship wig? You don't have to use it. And they was like, I'm gonna show you why, because this girl on YouTube, she's doing it and she just put the wig cap on. Okay, first of all, you have to remember you're looking at a YouTube video. I know some teachers who are at a certain level, and this is directly out of their mouth to me, that host a class and only give XYZ amount of information because they know within, if we have a long down head, how are we supposed to take the measurement? It's the same exact way. The same exact way if you're using the long dome head. The same way. The only thing you don't do is use that 9 inches up because it's not going to put you in the right place. So again, going back to this one instructor that told me this, and her reason was saying that it's because I know in 3 months I'm getting ready to introduce like a new technique to this, to the follow-up. So don't get caught up into like just every little aspect of what you seeing someone do. If you gain enough knowledge, you will be able to critical think and figure a lot of this stuff out. So getting back to the person who hit me up in the DM, and I'm like, I wonder who video they're sending me. And they sent me Erica J's video. And I'm like, okay, Erica J took my class. She shouted me out. It's in my highlights plenty of times. And she's able to talk, ask questions. So guess what? She understands measurements, transferring measurements, doing all of that. But yeah, you're right. You do not have to use measurements to make ready to ship wigs. So that's why when you see it, it's just put on. So it's just a standard fit, 21, small, medium, large. However, the measurements that we've used, Telecrown sold a lot of wigs. I ghost wig make for one other popular wig maker and another popular hairstylist. They sell a lot of wigs. So the measurements is it just yields a better fit, a consistent fit. Everybody have brands. Some people brand is not just focused on wig construction. It's not just focused on wig styling or whatever. So keep everything in mind as you watch YouTube videos and learn, take classes and do all of that. I'm in the process of taking a few classes about installing and stuff like that, learning different techniques and things. So just keep that in mind. Yup, long necks meant for styling in like the professional wig world. But we still construct on them and all of that. It's the same concept with how far down you go and all of that. So I think, what time is it? Okay, we have enough people in here, so we're going to get into it. So I've already started with a wig for you all. And the reason being is because a lot of people say they have trouble up here at the top. When you sewing, right? When you see where I'm sewing at, you shouldn't be able to lift this up, meaning you want the needle to exactly a more custom fit. Thank you. The needle should be hitting above your track, so I'm going to show it to you. But if you follow the guidelines, let me see if I can put this. It's not the smartest thing ever. Okay, this is not the best, the smartest thing ever. But I think you all can see. So your guidelines are going to be flat, smooth every time you sew. And the reason behind, like when you're sewing, so listen, when you're looking at this, right, you don't see bumps. Remember, this hair is on here. When we take, that's one thing I learned from wig makers. We put the cap. So this is for the new wig makers. You beat yourself up with how flat it is. We literally take this, put it on the head, lift it up. Aisha, she was like, girl, you got to get your angles. We doing all of this. And boom, perfect picture for Instagram, right? But when you flip this, one, this is what you test for. When you do this, it's smooth. It's smooth. When you flip it inside, when you look at your guidelines, they're flat. They're consistent. So when you're sewing, I'm looking at, if I'm teaching, I'm looking at from the back, it tells me a lot. If you have zigzags that's super close together right here, you're putting too much pressure as you're sewing. You're not letting the machine take it out your hand. It shouldn't be a buildup of thread. You're sewing too fast. You're sewing faster than you're gliding. So when you see the consistent spacing, that's all about how the machine is pulling it through, gliding. So when you follow the techniques, it's going to be the same. When you sew on the band, it always look good. It doesn't give you your errors or anything like that. So we're going to go straight into sewing. And I'm not trying to make this look cute because this is how you're going to do when you're actually sewing. I actually sewn over, and I'll do a separate tutorial for how to sew over your stitching. So if you hand sew first, please reinforce your stitching with the sewing machine. I like to now just cut the cap before I start sewing. Yes, and not only that, when you bunching up, I'm going to teach you like a stop and go that really works. Shanice Glam Room had an event, and I ended up getting invited because A1 Styles was invited to sew a wig in less than 30 minutes. She was like, I can't do this, but I know someone that could. So I made a wig from start to finish in a room full of people, timed in 18 minutes. So, and I stop and go, the same technique. So don't feel like you have to sew so fast, do all of this, and it's going to make you so quicker. No, the more you master the steps, the more you practice, the better you just become at wig making. And if you can make a wig within 45 minutes or less, you're good. You're good. So just keep going. And I'm going to just be honest. I've never made another wig in 18 minutes because I'm literally sitting there like rushing. Even when I procrastinate and need to get a wig out, I make it in like 20 minutes. I personally do not like rushing. And in my head, while I'm rushing doing it, as experienced as I am, I'm still telling myself, make sure that you don't stretch. You following the guidelines. Double tracks give you room for error. I'm just going to be honest. That single track does not. That ventilated cap gives you no room for error. And I have a YouTube video on it, but with the ventilated cap, you want to make sure that you're straight stitching directly in the track. And it's absolutely no pull, no stretch on that cap. A little bit of stretch will bump it up. So usually you're getting bumps if you're stretching the cap. You're getting bumps if your needle isn't hitting above the track, and just some other techniques. So if you want to, after I do this for all of you all, only the people that's in this group, if you can send me, if you having issues and you just send me, and I do this for my students or refreshers or people that just ask questions, send a quick video, just a quick one. I only need to see maybe one guideline or a half a guideline song of how you're sewing, because I'm looking at your hand movement, I'm looking at your cap, different things, and I do not mind giving you some little tips. Now I can't obviously FaceTime stop and teach all of you all, but from what I visually see, I would definitely give you feedback on it if you want to do it. And if you do send it via DM on Instagram. So now we're going to get into sewing. And before I do that, let me show you all something about doubling your tracks. I have a tutorial on that, so I'm not going to go too much into it. But when you double your tracks, the reason I take one bundle and fold it, make sure they are parallel to each other. Super close as you're sewing. So this is a gap. That's a gap. You don't want to see any gaps as you're doubling. And another thing you'll notice, and I'm going to repeat all of this when I'm on the sewing machine. When you're sewing, even on the cap, let the needle stop before you release your hand. So I see a lot of people, you're sewing and you're new, and you just release and the sewing machine's still going. Let the needle stop before you release. And the reason why I fold it is because I hate if I need a little bit more hair. And all I have to do, if this is double, rip the thread out. And now I have a longer piece to finish versus having two little small pieces of track that I have to put together. So that's the reason why I take one bundle and fold it. But it's not a right or wrong if you put two bundles together. So you will see that. And now I am going to have the view on the needle. I'm not going to be able to see all of the questions, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you all 1, 2, go over the technique, and then you will be able to practice it and ask questions. And if you want to, you can send me a video and I'll get back to you. So let me readjust myself. Oh. You know what? Because I'm not coming back to this view. Someone asked me, where do we put the band? It's not a right or wrong. Some people like their band on the cap right here. Some people like their band right here. So for ghost wig making lately, we put our bands, it's usually like the third track down. So the band is like right here is where the band is. And where you put it at on one side, you put it on the other side. So this is where the band have been. So all of those wigs, that whole Thanksgiving, Black Friday that you all received, if you had a band in your wig from Telecrowns or anyone or some of the other people wigs that I Ghost Wig make for, their bands are going here now. And with this band, it's an adjustable band, which is what I like about it. We no longer have to decide how much to cut. So you put one on one side of the cap, the other on the other side of the cap. And when you are doing it, and this is for the wig makers that aren't experienced, make sure you putting it in the side that you want to be seen on the back end. Some people have their logo right here. As you can see, I cut this person logo off because I Ghost Wig Maker. I'm supposed to tell who they are. So, but that's how you do it. So now I'm going to switch the camera so you all can see me sew. I'm ready. Okay, so I have GS. This is GS hair, 10 inches. And this is their raw virgin hair. So for all of you all that's looking at it, this is the hair that I use. All the Telecrayon's hair is with this. The Bella, the short bobs. All of the bobs is with this hair. If it's a 12-inch wig, we have a 10-inch to the bottom, 12-inch on top, 14-inch closure on top. So this is the hair, and this is what I'm going to teach you how to double. And listen, if you all want to learn how she styled these wigs, go register at Telecrayon's University. She has a styling course that show you exactly how she cuts and make her popular wigs. So now I'm going to get into it. Okay, hold this. And you know what? I've okay. Okay, so let me remove one more thing. Around. So I don't care which footer you're using, this one or an open toe. It's all the same concept. Your needle should be up. So my settings tension is a 4. So let me tell you all something about your settings, right? Depending on, I don't know if a lot of people talk about this, but depending on the weft size, I will adjust this. Sometimes your weft is so small or so thin that you need to decrease your weft. Your length you usually don't have to touch. But like the Cambodian one that I quadruple, a lot of people was asking me, oh, it's so flat. I did switch my settings to make this a little shorter because the weft is so thin. So just keep that in mind. I'm usually like on a 3.5, 5. But you can adjust this based on what you like. I just recommend that it's not too short. So if you're using a J, well, they all J footers, but if you're using one similar to this, everything I do, I like to give myself a visual. So if I'm here, when you're sewing, right? If you have a track and it's like bent up, curved, and all of that type of stuff, this one is fine. But I don't play with those. I just nip it and cut it and start flat. And you want to start with them super close. When you're sewing, don't be at the tip. When you're at the tip, you have to work to get it up underneath there. Put it up underneath the footer. Once you sew a little bit and back stitch, you will get that tip. And we're getting ready to sew on the dome cap. So it doesn't matter. You don't have to sit here and back stitch and do all of that because we're going to do it when it's on the cap. So now as you're sewing, you want to keep these super close together. So for me, these nails are extremely too long for me. The man just did what he wanted to do and they growing out. But put enough pressure. I'm not barely touching this. I'm putting enough pressure right here. And the machine is going to it's going to pull it out your hand. Now, for some people, this technique doesn't work. You may need to be back here, controlling it. However, that's a gap. You can't have any gaps. It should be super close as you're sewing. And if you're back here trying to sew like this, you don't have full control. You're sewing on a gap. So usually when you're closer up to the footer, you have better control. So sometimes I find myself, if I cross it over or if a student crosses it over, it gives them enough control for them to be able to keep it close together, because the machine is naturally going to pull it apart. Yes, oh yes, flat ironing your tracks is a good tip. So a lot of cheaper quality bundles, or some of the bundles that just been sitting a while, like some of that raw ending here or that, it be so bumpy. Run it through your flat iron. I definitely will use my flat irons. Now, some people like to be here and hold it here, because when you're sewing, it's going over to the right, over to the left. So either way, your job is to control it as it sews. And as you're sewing, right, don't be dragging your hand all the way back. Stop and come back. Everything is about control. So I'm going to just double this here. You really have to just figure out what works for your coordination. But the thing I tell you is keeping enough tension between here and here works. If you're pulling too much, watch what happens. It's a buildup of thread, because I'm pulling it with a lot of tension and I'm not allowing it to flow out of my hand. And you want it to be able to pull out of your hand, but with enough control. Now I'm going to make this a little easier for some of you all. And if you teach, you should be able to double on this footer, this footer. I'm just being real. That's the goal I set for myself. Like I hold myself to a high accountability when it comes to just taking the time to practice and learn different things as a teacher. I pop this off in the back right here. So it's the same concept whenever you're putting it on. So I promise you I'm like a little girl with nails on. Okay, lift this up. And then you want to clamp it in. Another way you could do it is, I see some people just align it and just drop it down and then lift it up. But that's how you put it on. So now this is an open toe footer. It obviously makes it easier for you to see. Open toe footer, same concept. Now everything you do, give yourself, if it's hard for you to do this, give yourself a visual. So with this footer, I know where these two wefts meet. If I'm keeping it where this slit is, so if where it meets is staying on the slit, I know it's positioned where I need it to be. So for this footer, when you put it down, I see right now where my needle is going to hit. And this is me manually turning it. So I need it to hit on this first track. And it's the same concept. So the visual for me on this, here's this little metal piece right here. If it's staying right below this track, it's hitting where it needs to hit. I'm letting it pull through my hand. Oh, I teach on genomes. Yeah, I teach on genomes too. I actually like the genome. You know what? I'll take this where I'm going at when I leave here with it. And I think she should have her genome, and I'll see if this one fits on it. So some things is just about like watching. You watching my hand movement. You just have to find what works for your coordination. But the goal here is enough force, enough tension, keeping it close together. Do not sew over any gaps. That's a gap. You don't want to see any gaps as you sew. And if you are really struggling and you don't have an open toe footer, get an open toe footer. It would help. When I get to the end, I don't do a lot of back stitching. I let it I usually stop it here. If you don't, just take it through. Or if you want to back stitch, I pull on the hair. to get it to come back. Now, once you've done that, you want to check. You want to check. Make sure everything is close. I was trying to see if I put a gap somewhere. Is this probably where? Yes. So you see here a build-up of thread. That's because I wasn't letting it pull out of my hand. A gap. You sewing where it's gaps. And then I like to run my finger across it or flat iron it if it's still bumpy. If your track's bumpy, it makes it easier to have bumps on your wefts. I like the way you place your camera. Finding it difficult to get this view while sewing. Oh, that's because I have a great 12-year-old son. I'm making him work, y'all. He's holding the camera for you all. Okay, hand me that wig cap. Oh, okay. But you could definitely learn how to, you could definitely do it on the Janome. I've taught many people on the Janome. So you could definitely just send me a video and I'll assist you with that. Okay, so now let's get into, yes, thank you, son. You see what they're saying? Hold it. But I do, okay, so, but all jokes aside, it's this little desk clip thing that I have. And when I lift it up and position it right over my shoulder, it gives you all this same view. But I sew so much, I be uncomfortable slouched down. It doesn't even matter to me because I'm just so used to sewing. Like, I done made a wig sewing with my knee on the presser foot because the machine is on the ground. Like, no jokes. So, oh, send me that chest piece. Look at you. Send me that chest piece. Okay, so as you sew, right, you want to go in at the angle that you are about to sew. Sewing is like driving. Make sure your machine is turned. Everything is comfortable for you. You're positioning right. Your foot is positioning right. When you're going in, it's no point of going in any other direction than the direction you are about to sew, which is straight in. Take your track and place it. Now, this is something that you just have to work on. I'm putting force here. You have to get it underneath the footer. You don't want to be barely putting it underneath and then trying to get it to go. Get it up underneath the footer. Once it's up underneath the footer, place it down. Right now, we don't care about what's going on anywhere on this wig cap, because all I am about to do is back stitch about a good half an inch to an inch. So it's on, attach it. Once you attach it, now you can let it go. You can position yourself if you need to. You see how I pulled that off? So just by me pulling it underneath this footer, it pulled off. I'm going to put it right back underneath here. Open up. Back stitch. So forward, go back. Back stitch is something you have to practice. In the beginning, you tend to go back, stop, forward, stop. But you're going to get to a point where you can do it all simultaneously. And that's too much thread on there, just to let you all know. So now, when it's time to sew, when you have your guidelines, and I want you all to see these guidelines purposely, you have to decide if you want to sew on the guideline, below the guideline, or above the guideline. This guideline is too close to this track for me, so I am going to sew above the guideline. The guideline is just telling you which direction to go. So now I place my track. And again, I'm pressing. I'm not barely touching this being cute. No, I'm pressing on it. I need for this weft to stay exactly on this cap where I positioned it. Now, if you're doing this, you're stretching the cap. You see how that line went to switching? Usually when you're sewing and you're doing all of this, you're stretching the cap. You're sewing and you're doing all of this here, you're stretching the cap. Control. It's loose. Make sure you aren't sewing down your lace, your cap. So you're constantly feeling to make sure you're where you need to be. Now, you want it to be flat on both sides of the guideline. So let me try to I'm never going to start sewing like this where I could visibly see ripples. You smooth it out. Place the track. This is my focus area, meaning I only intend to sew to where my finger is. So as long as my finger area is smooth and flat, you're good to go. I see my needle hit above the track. That's what you want to see. Stop. Gather yourself up. If you sew one line all the way on and you have not mastered sewing, it's going to be bumpy. Once you master sewing and your technique, you good to go. So here we are. Now it's a curve, right? I'm coming to the curve. When I place my track, naturally just want to fall and be placed right there. I'm right above the guideline. That's good. But notice, I'm on a curve. You're not going to see me doing all of this. If you're doing all of this, you're doing too much. It's going to mess up. You glide it in. So again, what's my focus area? From here to here. Open it up, and I'm using both fingers to open it up because both sides needs to be flat. There's no wrinkles. I place my track. I'm putting force down, and then I'm removing my hand, which is releasing some of the tension off the cap. So sometimes when you all think you're not stretching the cap, you just hadn't released enough of the tension as you sew. And I'm just trying to think of everything from all of these refreshers that I've taught. So now it's time to sew. I see my needle hit above the track. Stop. Glide in. When you stop and go, you get more control. So now I need to open my cap up. It's okay. Open it up. Gather yourself. You're still on the curve, but it's not a true turn or curve. Here's my welt. I place it. I'm ready to sew. I release some of the tension. And I'm sewing with the rhythm of the machine, which means I'm sewing slow, I'm guiding it slow. If I'm sewing fast, I'm gliding it quicker in. Open up. I'm only focused on my focus area. It's flat. You see how that looks like it's bumpy right here and all of that? While you trying to stretch all of that out, just trust the process. It's going to be flat. If you worry about your focus area where your needle is getting ready to hit, I place it. So I feel something pulling. I feel tension right now, so I stop. It's probably hair, something back here. Always stop when you feel like something is going wrong. Open it up. I'm here. See how I created that? I won't sew right there. I want it to be completely flat when I'm placing my track. And another thing, I call this the hamburger hole. I used to teach this when I first started. Sometimes this is a very good, helpful way to control the track. Get up underneath the cap. You're opening it up. You're using these two fingers to position it. Now you should be able to control this cap simultaneously. So if I'm sewing like this with one hand, and don't do this, I'm just showing you that I have so much control over this weft and cap with my grip that it's going to be flat. So again, open it up, place it, follow your guideline. I'm lifting it up because there's too much tension, and I just sew. My guideline is telling me to come here. Open up, place it. Now, I want you all to see this fold, right? So this fold here, I purposely skipped sewing this fold down to show you. I had to remove space. With a fold, you don't try to stretch that fold out. It's folded for a reason. So you want to keep that fold as you sew. And sew over the fold if you ever see this. And now, I'm placing it. And you'll get to a point where you're not trying to hold the fold down, because I don't hold it as I sew. And then you just sew to the end, back stitch, stop. Nothing should be hanging off the cap. I like the fold back nip. The purpose of back stitching is to seal the end. So there's no point of doing all of that sewing and then cutting. Cut, and then back stitch over it. Notice sometimes you can go off the cap a little bit. Watch. If I go off the cap a little bit, I'm going to move back up fast. I'm off the cap a little bit, but I'm going fast enough. So now what I've done is I've sealed the ends. I like to clean up as I go because it's always a lot of thread. And you just cut your thread off. I'm going to clean this side up. Let me act like I don't be pulling this thread sometimes, just to show you all. So now, when you open this cap up and you continue to sew, you have a single track. It's going to always be flat on the cap. You don't have to sew fast. It shouldn't be any ripples from this area, from this to this. No. You just follow the technique and it's going to go. Thread area, all of this little extra thread, long pieces of thread, you just cut off. If you ever have to, let's say you was to sew your lace down, right? If you was to sew your lace down and you ever have to cut this thread off, always go back and reinforce your stitching, because once you cut the thread, you've now compromised the integrity of your thread. When you come in, lift this hair up, and nope, not braiding it or anything. When I come in, it's going to be flat. It's going to be smooth. And you can see the bumps anywhere else as you sew. But if you trust the process, it's going to look like this and just following the steps. You don't have to sew really fast. Yes, the settings of my machine now is 3.5. It's like a 5. Sometimes I go between the 5 to 6 and the 4. And the brand of thread that I'm using, this has been my favorite brand of thread probably about a good 4 years now. It works really good. And also the Sherlock brand works really good. So what I'm going to do is, okay. So sewing. I used to teach my FaceTime classes in about 2 hours and allow students to ask wig, because you just getting all of the points. It's not much. I could tell you how to make a wig in every bit of 15 minutes. So any questions? And as you sew, you're going to follow that exact same technique on every single guideline. Every single guideline, you're going to follow that exact technique as you sew. And what I do is, I am going to record, because for the sake of people time, I am going to record myself sewing around that closure and upload it in here for you. Yeah, no, that sewing machine, it'll give it to you, but it'll work you. You have to have patience with it. So any questions that you all have, about the machine, your questions, I'll come in and add as I think of content. I will be making sure that I answer the questions as well. You want to see something? These are the type of knots that you do not want. You see how big these knots are? I don't know what's up with this lace. This is some COVID lace. But any questions that you all have, anything about doubling, doubling your tracks, sewing. I sew the exact same time. What's the name of the clothes? It comes with the machine. It's a J foot. It's a J foot. It's the one that actually comes with the machine. Oh, and change your needle. Your needle should be a 110/18. My machine was knocking. And I'm like, I need to change the needle. Everything I tell my students, and I'm sitting there not changing the needle. The needle broke. I had to change the needle. Just went back. This knocking stopped. It was just smooth. The needle was dull. So it's taking too much out of the machine to go through those tracks. And that was the knocking sound. My single tradition only has length and tension. Do you think I should just put the length on 3.5 like yours? So with those machines, I put it on the highest one. I put it on the highest setting is what I do. Let me see more. I do get some bunching and have it on 2.5. Yes, put it on the higher settings. The needle size that I like to use is 110/18. It's a heavy duty needle. However, the denim jean needle gets the job done as well. Let me see if nobody has it. Someone asked about a China marker, and this is how it looks. It looks more like a white pencil, and I use these two right on the cap. Yep, and then just try to let me see. So any questions about anything that you all have, about the vendors, anything while I have you all? How much time do we have? Okay, good. Trying to be respectful of everyone's time. Maybe that's the reason why my brother machine is knocking. Yeah, switch your brother machine needle out. And if you had it for a long time, it might just need to be serviced. But any other questions that you all have, anything about wig making, the vendors, just let me know. Yeah, I love those China markers. I get them from Amazon or Business Credit, Uline. So if you all have not watched Kiara's Business Credit video, it was really, really good. She's really one of those ones that like really is about her action. She doesn't just like say stuff because she went and read something and just saying like it's really what she does. But Uline sells them. That's when I was first buying them when I was building Business Credit. Now I just get them from Amazon. When you sew the double tracks on the cap, do you sew with the double tracks lace face down or up? Okay, so I sew with it face up. Face up. This isn't a right or wrong, but I like to sew with it face up. That's just my preference. I sew with it face up. And when them clients look in it, they see double tracks too. You have all your bundles in there. But it's not right or wrong, but I do like to sew with mine faced up. And also, if I'm sewing, another reason why I don't sew with the face down is because I just want my folded end to be last. Because when I get like this amount, I have this right here, right? This is from this wig. So what I do is I get a seam ripper, and I just run my seam ripper through it. And by me running my seam ripper through it, I now have a longer piece. But what I'm going to end up doing is, because I'm purposely gauging this, right? I have one more track. It's going to fit on this line. So I purposely gauged it to know that I need this and this piece to connect, and I'll be able to finish the wig off. So this will be the last track. And what I end up doing is taking this loose, and I just double it right here. Or what I do, if it's easier for some of you all, like I was teaching one girl, she couldn't get the single to single. We took the double, put the single right here, and then it's easier now for you to double it. You double it, and then come and cut the thread off and open it up, and then finish sewing. So that's just a little tip, and I just thought about that because this girl was trying to finish a wig and couldn't get it, and couldn't charge you for no whole refresher for that. So we just hopped on FaceTime. You're welcome. Any other questions that you all may have about wig making, track placement from GS? With Lucas. It's the other lady. Well, see, Lucas and I have a different type of relationship. So I still deal with Lucas. But it's another lady that I use too. I have to look at her name. It was someone that, I don't know her name. I'll look at her name. It's Amy, I think it is. But I do use another lady sometimes for a bob wig. Could you give the bundle lengths again as far as the order? You doing a single? I usually purchase bob wigs but want to create my own. So yes. So for a bob, it's always the shorter to the bottom. So I put my 10-inch. I would double my 10-inch. Get it in. My 12-inch is on top. So with the 12-inch on top, I double. Most of the wigs that I make, GS, I double up until like If that last track could be double, it's going to be double for me, and it's going to be flat. However, you want to gauge. So when you get your first track, right? You see how long this is doubled from GS? This is long. So I double both bundles because when I ghost wig make, I can get 2 in double. And I think like the last one needs to be single. But you always want to gauge 1, 2, 3. So notice, if I'm making a wig for me with my big head, 23.5, 19 temple to temple, no, I double one and I single the other one. So you learn the hair how you want to do it. And then the closure is a 14. I'm really big on, I need fullness right here. 10, 12, 14. If your vendor has those very thin flyaways, for me, and when I go to Subi to make wigs, they want quick hair. I spend the extra bucks. I don't get the 12. I get the 10, the 14, and the 16. Just because I know it's a low quality, but I want my fullness right here, and the ends are a little thin. But usually, you just need to go to the next inch up. No, the tension always stays on 4. I don't mess with my tension. My tension just stay on 4. For most machines, 4 is the standard. If something is going wrong with your bobbin, sometimes it could be the bobbin cage. Another thing, you all, you might, if you've done everything, and this is for us wig makers that have been making wigs for a long time, and you get students in some stuff. So you can have it where you see how, I don't know if you all could, oh, let me turn the light around. How it's on here is messy. And I was hoping it would kind of like mess up as I was sewing. But a messy bobbin can give you problems and mess up. Sometimes you could have done everything right and your bobbin can be bent somewhere. So when in doubt, switch everything, change your needle, rethread, change your bobbin out. Even if you just done it and see if it works. So it's 10, 12. Yes. Yep. Any other questions that you all have about wig making? I am today going to send out the code for you all to use if you want the wig essential vendor list. Tomorrow I am going to review and go over the 613 hair that I have. I have raw Indian 613 hair. And I have the bundles, the DK 613 hair. So what I'm going to do is it will be the raw Indian hair 613 that I would give out as the giveaway that I talked about yesterday. So I'm giving that hair away. Correct. No, it's the wig essential list where I get my lace tint from. It'll have the Japanese dome cap on it and all of that type of stuff. Yes, sometimes you just need to rethread the whole machine. Lately, in this group, I've been taking note of certain people, referring certain people to you all if you do classes and things like that. So please use this group. If you do classes, when you drop a flyer on Instagram, drop the flyer in here. It's our group. It's not a problem. I really don't speak on housekeeping as much because I'm just one of those grown people that don't believe in preaching to grown people. I just remove you from the group. And if you want a refund, I refund you without a problem. That's more so me. So if you all ever feel offended by anything, let me know. I try my best to like even post from this group to Instagram with a little bit of privacy unless I'm shouting somebody out or if they want it. If you have a wig or have something and you want me to post it on my Instagram page, I'll post it. DM it to me, say you will post this, I'll post it. So many people hit me up about doing promos and stuff. I don't do promos. I don't take money to post people. Usually the people I'm posting are either my students or they have my vendor. I love that you're sharing. I appreciate it. Yes, if you purchase the wig essential list, it will be sent to the email. It will be in your email address that you checked out with. So any other questions that you all may have? Because I'm definitely going to go through them. So if we already have repurchase, do not repurchase. Do not repurchase it. You will get the list. You will get it in your email. And if you see me say I posted it and you don't see it, then just shoot me an email and I'll send it to you. Any other questions that you all may have? Any other questions? Anyone take? Yes, anyone can take the refresher. It doesn't matter. I do refreshers like I make wigs, to be honest with you. So I don't care who class, you could take a refresher. If you want me to refer you to someone, let me know. You all, A1 Styles and I are doing a $500 group class. So if you are in this group and you come to the class, you can, the next day, if you want to book a one-on-one with me, you can book it for $500. So we are trying our best to get enough students that just want to learn. We always, like her and I on the same thing with like that, just trying to give back. But it's, and then also if you want to take classes from her, I already told her, my people, I let them know they can get discounts coming to you, and she's in with it. So if you want to learn from her, come through me and I'll connect you with her. We are getting ready to start. Can you give me more information how to become a ghost wig maker? Yes, I'm releasing something about that. Oh, you're very welcome. So with the styling classes, her and I are both starting to do FaceTime styling classes together. So we have our first student next week. And I love FaceTime, so I'm going to go over the molding, the education behind it, the theory, stuff like that. And you'll be getting all the detailed plucking, tinting information, bleaching, all of that from her, showing, molding, curling. So whatever style it is that you want to do. And you all know, Tati, she can style. She really can style. You can use it as a refresher if you just want to come in. But no, the class is covering, it's going to be, you're going to make a wig in class. So it's a wig making class. It's a group class. You're going to make the wig. The look and learn is going to be her installing it. So she's going to do a look and learn install for you all. If you want to bring a model and install the next day, we are offering it at a very low price for you to come in and get their hands on one-on-one with us. How do you know where to put the elastic band? So, okay, I went over that in the beginning of this video, but so you don't have to look for it. It's up to you where you put the band. Some people like to put the band right here. Some people like the band on the lace. I put the bands like right here. So about an inch down from the lace is where I put the band, between the third or fourth track. And where you put it at on one side, I put it on the other side. And that's because I am using the adjustable ones. So it's just the right amount of, the length is just perfect. We're going to release the dates very soon on when the dates are. We're going to release it. Yes, I'm in Florida now. I moved to Pembroke Pines area, so Miami, Broward area. I'm opening up my suite in Miami Gardens, but I go to Atlanta. Well, I finally haven't been every week, but I've been here now a week just because I had to go out of town. I'll be in Atlanta every week. So if you want to do a class in Atlanta with me, let me know and book it before August, because after August, it's going to be one of those cities that I charge a traveling fee for. The refresher is $175 on my site, but don't book it on my site. It's $100 for anybody in the group. You get a code to save $75. Okay, I missed it. You get a code to, for the same method for the frontal. I'll show you on how to do it on the frontal. So on the frontal, if your lace is right here, we put it on the lace like an inch up, but close to the back. So if this is my lace right here, the band is going right here, so it could sit right above the ear and just pull. Girl, I'm not having a grand opening like that. I'm getting the suite and it's not a real grand opening. But you're more than welcome to come visit me. Girl, I'm coming back to Chicago. So for all of you all that don't know, I've been paid for an online learning course that I have to record in Chicago. So yes, I am coming to Chicago. If you are in the Chicago area and want to take a class, send me an email. Chicago, New Orleans, South Florida, I always be in those areas and open for teaching. So just to let you all know, I do travel. If you want me to come to you, all you have to do is pay for my ticket. If I need to stay overnight, pay for the room. I don't have no problem flying Spirit. So that way it's affordable for us all. It's this refresher, you have to already make a wig. In the refresher, No, it's a refresher to go over specific questions. So with my refresher classes, you talk to me beforehand. And the reason why you talk to me beforehand is I want to know what all your issues are, because some of it I could just tell you. You don't need the class. You don't need to book me. I tell you, I help you. But if not, and then we set the date for you to actually take the refresher and we go over everything that you discuss. The refresher is a set time on there. However, it always go over time. That's why I took it up. I'm always 2-3 hours or whatever. So it went up some. But for you all, it would stay at my original price. If I wanted to understand the cut front method more, yes, that's something you book under the refresher course. A lot of people have booked that under the refresher course. To learn how to sew on a different cap, the cut frontal method. And the thing about booking a class with me is you're always a priority. We can always FaceTime. We can always do that after the course. Like, that's the whole thing about actually booking the class with me. Will you ever do a live conference class? Yes, I go to Ghana in March. And I was planning something as of now, trying to get something in Ghana. So I had to stop for a little bit, but I'm getting back on that. But I will be in Ghana in March. Right down the street. Yes, girl, I love your work. Like, I'm coming to learn something from you. Okay, so any other questions for ventilating caps? Do you straight stitch or zigzag? So for ventilating caps, I straight stitch. I started teaching the method of how you could zigzag on the mesh part and straight stitch on the plastic. And I do that for people who just have issues with not being able to sew on the ventilated cap without the bumping. However, I like for you all to master things. So I don't like the baby. I don't like to handicap you. You can zigzag. I zigzag on the mesh, straight stitch, do it. I've taught it. But you can straight stitch the entire cap, and it's perfect. It's perfect for as perfect as it's going to be. But yes, you could zigzag, but don't do it on the plastic. Because when you zigzag on the plastic, not only is it harder to take off, the thread is exposed. So the last thing I want is my customer with a wig with zigzags on it, and some of the thread is loose. Because if this is the track, and you're zigzagging, it's when you take that plastic off, the zigzag is not even going to be punctured in the welt. The integrity of your wig is just not where it is for me, for my quality. So, and again, that's my opinion. But yeah, feel free to send me anything. Any more questions? Let me see what the time is looking like. We have us another minute. Any other questions that you all may have? Any other questions that you all may have about doubling your tracks and the technique to sewing it on? And for any of you all that really want to get into like the shortcut wigs making and stuff, Tati A1 Styles is slaying those. I'll post some information about the bands. I have to look. Slaying those frontal installs. I know she's teaching those one-on-ones. We're doing it where if you want to come here and be here for 3 to 5 days, if you just plan it with us, that's fine. Like, we had a student that we taught, and it was a 4-day class because she really, really, really wanted to understand how to construct wigs, how to install, go back, and be able to monetize what she's just learned. And she's up there slaying too. So you just send an email and ask, should I inbox your email? You about to freshen. Send me an email to info@JanelleAliciaHair.com. Yes, it's going to be saved. Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate it. It's definitely going to be saved. Any other questions? My son told me yesterday, he was looking at the video. He told me, Mom, you look hot in that video. So I wasn't hot. I tried to make sure I didn't look hot today, like I'm oily or something. So, yeah, that would be me. Oh, listen, if you want to come, if you do decide to come take it, I take off for me. You know what we have going on. For me, you just come, you learn with me, and then you just really just paying for A1 style stuff if you want to come here. So if you want to come here, that'll work out good, and we'll actually have like a lot of times to go over some stuff, and even with business and stuff. So yeah, if you want to come here, that'll be perfect. I have more time here than I would even in Chicago. Yeah, she's slaying them frontal shortcuts. Like, in person, they look good. Okay, send me, 21st through the 27th, 21st. Oh, I'll be here. Send me an email. Send me an email. Send me an email and we'll get something going. The new list is coming. I have it out to you all. I'm going to just say tomorrow. My plan is to do it today, but tomorrow. Any other questions? Okay, well, it was a pleasure, and I appreciate you all. Drop what you want to learn here. Tati is going to show up with another look and learn, another tutorial. We're trying to see what is going to be on for August. But whatever you all want to learn or more information about, let me know. Moving forward, I'm not adding any more vendors to the list. If I find one, I drop it in the group. Okay, that works. I drop it in the group. But moving forward, I'm starting to purchase those other textures from my list. So, I have certain vendors